Hey guys, and welcome back to Cultured Boys, a show where two guys just want to have a chat. I'm Nathan, and as always, I'm joined by Pepe. And this week, we are back to some live action adaptations.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. Jeez. It's been. Is this the first one we've done? Like you've done it with Wilder, didn't you? But like.
I guess I should say I'm back for some more live
Yeah.
action.
Unreal,
But I
yeah.
also realized can't actually call this one an adaptation because, well, I guess we're talking about Blazing Transfer Students.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was actually called Students. I thought it was Student. That's why
Oh.
originally it was a live action adaptation.
Yeah. But it's kind of one in the loosest sense. Like it's the fact that they've like kind of twisted it a little bit. But
Well, it's live action, but it's not an adaptation though, because it turns out this is wholly original
mhm.
and it's a show sequel to a manga.
I mean, it's kind of like it's the fact that like they do make references, like slight, tiny references to the manga. Like I don't know, if in the first episode anyway, they made like reference to it, but like
I mean, the whole thing is a reference because it's
yeah,
like
I mean, yeah,
it's supposed to be a sequel, but not like I don't think like an official sequel. I think it was. I
yeah.
don't even know. I don't know
For
the logic
God,
behind
God
it.
knows what this is, but yeah, it's the Blazing Transfer Students.
Watched it on Netflix,
Yes.
and it's actually not. The name differs only ever so slightly in Japan, which makes it seem more like a sequel than over here. Because like again, all we did in the West was put an S on it at
Yeah.
the
Oh,
end.
yeah.
Um,
So they actually changed the title in Japan then compared to
well,
what?
actually, they just added an extra word.
Oh,
So
okay, yeah. So
Hono no Tenkosei Reborn. That's
oh,
it.
is the reborn the one
So
they've added on
so yeah,
by any
so it's
chance?
Blazing yeah, it's literally so it's just Blazing Transfer Student Reborn.
Okay, yeah. Oh, okay,
Like,
yeah.
it's it makes it seem a little more like a sequel and not like a random
You can
potential, like
chuck a random word at the end of anything, and technically it's a sequel. So yeah, I can get understand that. Yeah, yeah, sure. But so did you read the Blazing Transfer Student manga then?
Not the actual one. I think I read, like, a sort of spin-off
Wasn't it like Ninja
of
Man
it.
or something like that? Like,
Yeah,
or
Blazing Ninja Man is what I read.
okay, yeah, but it's all in the same kind of universe, right? Is it by the same
Yeah,
creator?
it's the
Yeah,
same art style and everything. I think it is
yeah,
the same universe. It's just a different main character at a different school.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I think it was a spin-off of because it's called, obviously it still says Blazing in it, so it's part of the, like, I guess the Blazing
Like
franchise.
franchise, yeah. Because I feel like there's more as well. I feel like there's probably other Blazing
Oh yeah,
kind of
like
things in here.
I think this is like a really big, like, franchise, Blazing.
Yeah.
Or it might be big or was big. I'm not
Mhm.
entirely sure on that, but
Yeah.
I've definitely heard of Blazing Transfer Student.
Yeah, and, like, the art style is quite recognizable as well, this is one thing of it. Like, even though,
Oh
like, I've
yeah.
only seen bits and pieces of it, I have seen this art style before, and it is, like yeah, I get that. It's a
I
big
mean,
one.
even before I read like Blazing Ninja Man, I definitely have seen the main character of Blazing Transfer Student before.
Yeah, yeah.
For whatever reason, I've definitely seen him before.
No, I think it's, like I think even when, like, we went to Japan, like, ages ago, I feel like there was, like, posters of that, like, that character up
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff like that.
definitely,
Like,
definitely.
we went into a few, like, random, like, manga shops and stuff like that, and it was like there would have been
And we
posters
probably
there.
saw something in like a secondhand shop.
Yeah, there would have been something around. But yeah, Blazing Transfer Students. Do you want to give a quick rundown of the synopsis note?
Yeah, sure. So, Blazing Transfer Students is about seven transfer students that appear at a mysterious elite school, Tanabe Gakuen, established by Takizawa Noboru, who was once called the Blazing Transfer Student. Coincidentally, all seven students have the first name Kakaru. The Kakarus sneak into problematic schools with the secret mission of improving it from the inside, ordained by their shadowy principal. It's literally the description. It leaves out a lot, and we'll get into that. Um, First of all, I guess we should note down
Hmm.
that the Kakarus are also played by what me and Pepe literally found out just before record is they all of them are played by a band called Johnny's West. I thought that they were maybe an acting troupe or a comedy group or something, I wasn't expecting a boy band.
Yeah. I mean, there's certain bits of it, like there's certain things with this where you're like, even though I had no knowledge of that going into this show, you could tell like there's something about this cast where they've like kind of chosen them specifically for this, and it's like kind of these people definitely have like a connection off of this show as well. You can kind of tell
Yeah.
they've been doing this for some kind of troupe. You can kind of like see that like going into this. Um, but yeah, like I was not expecting a musical group or like a boy band or whatever, but fair play. Like, it also, I mean, going into it like a little bit before, it kind of answers a lot of your questions as well, like what kind of
Mm.
group this is, because like I was even thinking it's gonna be comedy or something. Like, I thought it was like a comedy group or something like that. Like,
I thought so too, because that would explain like maybe some of the acting, but at the same time, because of the way the show is, the fact that they're boy band and the acting maybe is a bit over the top and maybe not so amazing and
mhm.
believable actually kind of works for the show as
It
well.
really does. I think like the first thing you realize with this show is that it doesn't take itself seriously, or I hope it doesn't,
Oh
because
yeah, I really hope it doesn't because
yeah,
it did not
th-
present itself that way.
that I remember. Like, okay, so just a disclaimer: I at this release in 2017, and in 2017, I saw this. Like, oh, I'm going to try this out. I'll give it a watch, and I've actually watched the first two episodes like ages ago. So and I stopped, but I think the reason I stopped was because the one we've already established that the show hopefully doesn't take itself too seriously. But I remember back then I was watching it. I was like, this is pretty cringe.
Oh,
I
that's
yeah,
yeah, that's the whole show, and it doesn't get any better as it like goes on.
like for again, this is a Netflix original. Like it may have been like I don't know something else when it was in Japan, but over here in the West, it's a Netflix original. And for that, like when you look at the budget of it as well, like some of the special effects, some of the like makeup and stuff like that, it is like fucking hell. This looks pretty dire, but I can imagine it being a kind of cult classic in a way where it's so fucking goofy that it's like, okay, I can kind of get on board with it a little bit. And in the end, I ended up watching 4 episodes of this thing. You watched the whole thing, didn't you, Nate? Um,
Yeah.
I kind of got a bit more absorbed into it as the episodes went on. And I think I was more open minded to it this time round compared to the first time I tried to watch it, because I think I've just accepted the fact that it is just over the top and goofy. Like I've accepted that.
See, what I will say to where you said it was like, it looked dire.
Yeah.
To me, this show is the epitome of like a Japanese show. Like
Yes. Yeah,
a
I get you.
Japanese sort of like comedy show where it's got like the weird effects, but then like the costumes and the makeup and stuff look a little like Don Quixote like corner shop. Not corner shop, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean,
It
like
is it kind of
costume
like
store kind of
costumes.
stuff.
It is costumes. You're 100%
Yeah,
right.
like the party shop kind of stuff. And like to me, the whole time I was sat there watching it, I was like, my God, this is the most like Japanese thing I've seen in a long time.
It's
And when I
so
say
true.
that,
Yeah.
I mean like think about Japan, what you think Japan stuff is like from a decade ago. That's
Mhm.
exactly it, right?
Yeah.
It's over the top, it's weird and wacky, and you don't understand a single thing that's going on, even though it's all right there in front of you and they're explaining everything, and you're still just there like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, I agree. It is I this is one thing about Japanese live action shows and J-dramas and stuff like that, is that I think, like, those types of shows, like this I've watched certain, like, J-dramas and stuff where, like, it's more grounded and it's not as wacky, and it is actually very, like I mean, sometimes it comes across a little bit overacted, but it's not the worst thing I've seen. But with when it comes to these comedy ones and more fantastical series where they do live actions, this is where the over the top acting really comes out, because obviously they're trying to do what Japanese comedy is like
Yeah.
anyway. Like it's over the top and wacky, and there's certain bits of it you're like, well, I don't understand this. So when there's something like this which is more fantastical and is trying to showcase a lot of like, oh, here's this thing. Like, there's literally a guy in this. What was it? The pretty the pretty Kakaru.
Oh,
I'm going to
Kakeru Fuji.
Kakaru Fuji, who constantly does these like, oh, like stylish wink and stuff like that. Like,
But
uh,
basically, there's
yeah,
each Kakeru is like a different stereotype,
yeah,
a different trope, and that one that Pepe's talking about is the ikemen, like
yeah.
pretty boy.
Yeah, who's got
Uh,
like a blonde wig on, which is like long
yeah,
blonde hair. But this guy's obviously Japanese, so
and he's obsessed with beauty and being a gentleman, and he's yeah, Pepe's right. He's shining,
yeah.
shining
Shining,
winku.
that's it. Yeah, Shining Wing, that's it. And then like then the effects come through where he does the wink, does the whole peace sign by it, like with it
Yep,
and everything like
over his
that. And
eye, and then it's like a heart that comes out, and it's
yeah,
super shiny and all that.
and then like, but then
Yeah,
the effects are coming through with it, and they're like, oh my god, it's so bright, and it's like, oh my fucking god, I'm watching
his
this. Like,
beauty is
yeah,
blinding.
but realistically, this is like this guy's supposed to be playing a high schooler as well, by the way.
They're all high
all,
schoolers. That's
all,
the thing.
yeah, but then none of these are really played by actual high schoolers or like people of that age, because half of these guys look like they're in their like late 20s, early 30s. Like
Yeah,
they
but that's
all.
normal for acting across the world, isn't it?
I
Like,
know, but like I don't know, compare it to something like Glee, for example, where it's somewhat passable, even though it's like these are definitely not high
I thought
schoolers.
they were kind of some of them were passable.
Well, in this show, in
Yeah,
no, like well, it's mainly Kakeru Fuji, which I was like, this guy looks in his mid 30s. This guy,
like
yeah,
okay, like Fuji maybe not, but like some of the others I thought could pass, like Kakeru Hamada, the serious like boxer
Hamada,
one,
Hamada kind of passes. Yeah, he's
and
like the
like
boxing type. Yeah,
uh Kakeru Kotaki, the delinquent one. I thought he could pass.
yeah, Kotaki could pass. Okay, yeah, like so.
Even like the main guy, the normal one,
Uh,
Shigeoka,
that one's
kind of like he could kind of
yeah,
pass.
it's borderline. It is absolutely. But when you got someone like, for example, Kakeru Kamiyama, who is supposed to be playing the scared one or like the more
Yeah,
sensitive one,
yeah, he
uh,
did not.
he,
That
like
was
it's
not
got like a
believable.
bowl cut. It feels like he's supposed to be playing like a kind of like no, like it's like little baby boy or something, and it just
Yeah,
kind
he's
of
supposed to be playing like a much more wimpier, like
yeah.
smaller kid,
But
and it
this
doesn't
guy
work because
looks
he's
like
like,
he's yeah, he looks like he's in his mid 20s. And realistically, with that
yeah,
kind of character, you need him to be like, oh shit, I'm like really young. Like you
yeah,
need
but
to.
that's like Kakeru Nakama, the smart one. I did not believe he was a high school student either.
It's just like yeah, some of these are just like they're
You
quite
look at
fun.
that man and you're like, he's got too much of a chiseled face
Yeah.
to be a fucking high school student. Like this man,
Yeah.
he's not. That isn't it.
Yeah.
But
There's a
that's
lot
like
of them, man.
Kiriyama as well. Like there was no way Kiriyama, like the historical like samurai one.
Yeah.
There was no way he was a school student either. Like
Yeah, no, it's
that
kind
was a
of
fully grown man there. That
yeah. That's you know what I mean. But again, this is from this musical troupe. So obviously when they were casting this, I assume. So I don't know what the casting process was, but like they've got to find each role for each of these. And you're only limited with what you can do with some of
I'm not
these.
gonna
So
lie, Pepe. It was probably they wrote the script and thought, do you know what? We need some. At the time, they were probably big, right? So they were like, we probably need some big names to drag to this that maybe aren't so expensive.
yeah.
Then they
Uh,
were like, cool, we got this band, but they
yeah.
all want to be in it.
Yeah.
So we'll just make 7 main
Yeah, it
characters.
is literally that, and then like I mean, you got seven, so you can do the whole rainbow thing as well. Of like, oh yeah, each character set has their certain color as well. It's like the freaking Power
Yeah,
Rangers at some points.
except they all have the same name, first name,
Yeah,
and they all have the same main special ability that isn't actually that special
yeah,
because
which
that
is
becomes a running gag. The national rail punch.
like this is one thing again, as I said, I tried to watch this back in 2017 and I was taking this very seriously when I was watching it. I was like, what the fuck is this? Out of all I think that's where it comes through. Like, this is supposed to be goofy. This is like no one no one names a punch, a national rail punch, is taking it seriously. So
Well, especially because like they have to explain that joke as well
yeah.
immediately, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, then it's not a good joke, then, is it?
It really is. Oh, it is very like each of these characters as well is very, very tropey. It is like you're trying to find the epitome of oh, we need to find high school student tropes, or some of these aren't even high school student tropes. They're just like oh, we need like Japanese like storytelling tropes. This is what this feels like.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically like we're gonna treat this like it was a manga.
Yes.
So you each need to play a manga type character, but we need
Yeah.
you to turn it up to 11.
Absolutely.
And
Like
they did that.
yeah.
They did it. It achieved what it was meant to. I completely understand, but this did really feel like a sketch show that only had
Yeah.
the one main sketch, and it went on for too long.
Yeah. I agree. Like it's like the tropes really just become that character itself. And like there's certain episodes as well. Like where each episode, like a certain character who gets to show off a little bit about themselves. Like where like they all go on missions and then like there's like I don't know, there's about three or four of them or whatever, and then eventually they kind of like, oh, like there's two of them get captured or something like that, and then there's this last Kakeru which like kind of saves the day a little bit because they
Yeah,
have
pretty
like this
much.
kind of thing,
It
and yeah,
Some of the later episodes were a little better to me.
oh yeah,
Some of the early ones I just couldn't care. Like the zombie one, didn't care.
that's yeah. As I said, that's the second episode, so that's where I turned off to like fucking
There's
back in
like I
2017.
can't remember what episode it is, but there's one where they were meant to be sent to Gravure
Hmm.
school.
Yeah.
So like softcore porn school.
Oh
but
right, okay.
or like and then they got lost on the way,
Uh huh.
and Kiriyama ends up being the main one there, the samurai guy.
Yeah.
And they get lost and end up going
They
to
get
a
sent to the
Edo
past or
themed.
something. Yeah. All
Yeah, they
right.
go
Yeah.
to the Edo themed theme park, but he's so dumb and gets so swept up he doesn't realize it's a theme park.
Oh, okay, so he
And the
thinks
whole
he's actually traveled in time
yeah.
or something.
So
Okay.
the whole episode he's running through this scenario, right? And everyone else there besides him and the other Kakarus are actors
Okay.
at this theme park. So then you go through the whole episode and it's kind of like stuff feels a bit off, but he doesn't figure it out until the end. And he falls in love with the actress there, but she's playing a role. And then like they're like, "Oh, he wins," and she's like, "Yeah, let's go to the gate. Let's run away together." And he's like, "Yeah, I've got a girlfriend. I'm gonna get married. Let's run away together." He goes through the gates. A light shines in his eyes, and then the bell rings, and they all come out clapping, and they're like, "Congratulations, Kiriyama-sama! You've done it faster than anyone else. Thank you for being at our park. I hope you enjoyed." And then he's just stood there confused, and the other two Kakarus that went with him come out and they're like, "Oh man, congrats on winning the game. Yeah, we died really early on." Like, and I thought
Oh,
that was really funny. Like,
okay, yeah. Okay, there's certain like things I can actually appreciate that kind of stuff. Like there's good comedy that comes through there. That's fair.
I think
Uh,
the cringiest one, but I also still kind of like the episode was
mm,
they sent Fuji, Kotaki, and Nakama to an all girls school.
yeah. Okay, that's the last one I watched.
That one was okay.
That was very interesting because that's the first time we really see Fuji in like a scenario as well. Like obviously we've seen him.
Oh,
Yeah.
you missed. I think it's episode 7
Uh-huh.
or 6 or 7. Fuji's get his like main one.
Yeah,
That
okay,
one's
yeah.
a really good episode too. I quite enjoyed that one because
Is
it's
that like because I was reading some of the blurbs and stuff of the later episodes. Doesn't he like get like he goes to a
he
school full of pretty boys or
yeah,
something like that?
he
Yeah.
gets recruited to a school where the front is that they're trying to raise the next generation of gentlemen in Japan,
Goodness me.
and
Okay.
he's there. They call him Shining Star there, the
Yeah.
principal, because he's a shining star. He's their best example of a gentleman.
Mhm.
And then it turns out the principal is actually using it as a front to make lots of money because at night it turns into a host club and all
Yeah,
the students are
of
hosts.
course it does. Yeah.
And that one also had a pretty positive message in a
Okay.
strange way
Okay,
because
yeah.
Fuji ends up having to have a competition, a host competition with the principal, and it turns out like at one point Fuji was overweight,
Alright.
and they all tried to use that as a way to, like, bring him down, like, "Oh, look how ugly you are," like, fat shaming him.
Oh,
And
right,
then he
sure.
turns around and he's like, "What do you mean? I thought I was beautiful." He was like, "I was more beautiful when I was fat." And they were all like, "What are you talking about? Look at you." And he's like, "I'm beautiful regardless."
Ah, yeah, so it's
So it was
just,
kinda like positive in a way,
like a
like,
wholesome
you're
kind of
beau
message,
yeah.
yeah.
You if you feel beautiful, you're beautiful, you know, like, it doesn't matter what other people think. But then at the same time, it was in the context of Fuji being the most narcissistic he's ever been,
Yeah.
because he's like, "I'm beautiful regardless. The only reason I lost weight was for my health. I still think I'm beautiful. I'm beautiful no matter what I am." And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, there was a message in there,
It's
kind
just he
of.
kind of just got into the character's trope a little bit, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what that is. Okay, fair. All in all, this isn't actually a bad show. I was going into this
It was
ready
okay,
to
yeah.
hate it. Like, again, because like, I know, I keep on saying that. I did try it earlier. Like, watching it a second time round and being maybe a little bit more open minded than I was 6 years ago. Like I can maybe like appreciate it a bit more in the weirdest sense. Like, I think if you're looking for a serious show,
Oh, this is
like,
far from it. Do
this is
not go for
far from,
this.
yeah. It's like if you want something goofy to watch, where you could just be like, "What the fuck is this? Like, why are they doing this?" Like something that is like something you probably even wouldn't be able to think up yourself. Because half the time, I remember the first episode where like they've been like drafted into the school basically
Oh,
to
yeah, and they're doing the wrestling thing.
yeah, there's the rest of it. And then there's this one moment where like they're running through the school halls trying to escape. And then it's what was it? Kamiyama spots this this jump rope like
Oh, well,
squad,
yeah.
and like they're trying to escape this building, and then
They're like,
Kamiyama's
"Come
like,
and join us."
this looks really cool. Oh my god, I'm gonna jump into the Dutch. Like, so then he starts joining in like randomly, and they're like, no, it's a trap. And then the fucking Dutch squad just fucking ties him up with the skipping ropes, and it's like, what the fuck did you expect to happen?
See, I thought you were gonna talk about the moment where Hikari, the female lead,
Oh fucking hell,
gets
yeah.
Shigeoka into a room and she's like, "Hide in here." And then she tries to convince him, and then there's just a random pole there,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
she just starts sorta doing a bit
The
of pole
the
dancing, and you're
loosest
like,
form of a
"This."
pole dance because
Yeah.
and even
And
then
it's just like,
it's
"Oh, this is cringy and
it
weird."
is so great because you don't expect, and then obviously it's his facial expressions as well, which really fucking just like tell me it's one. This guy is not an actor. I hope he's not an actor. And
The worst
then
thing is they actually bring that back for one tiny moment in I think episode 7 or 8.
yeah,
I
oh
think it's
god,
7 because in episode 7 it's like they break the fourth wall and they're like, we had so much to do and we've only got one more episode before the season
oh
ends."
fucking hell. Okay,
So
yeah,
then they have to fight Hikari,
right.
and
Okay.
she gets beat, and she wakes up in that same room, that same like
Yeah.
infirmary room, and Shigeoka's there, but he doesn't want her to know he was like watching her really close.
Uh
So when
huh.
she wakes up, he just starts leaning against the pole and also like loosely
Oh, for God's
dancing
sake,
on it too. And it's
yeah.
just like, for fuck's sake, why is
Why?
this thing even there?
Why? Why in a school? Why is there a pole in the fucking infirmary?
I know, right? It was just it was weird. It's if you want a show
Yeah.
that basically makes you think about Japan the same way you probably did when you were younger, like, oh man, Japan, you're so weird. You're so
Yeah.
wacky and weird.
Yeah.
I don't understand you. This is it.
This
This
is
is the
this is
show.
the epitome of like the Japanese wacky comedy kind of thing.
Literally is.
Yeah.
It's just like, what is this? I don't know why it exists,
Mhm.
but Japan. And
Yeah.
then you just sort of brush it off because Japan.
It is one that I feel like this is a sort of thing where it should have like a bit of a cult following, just because
Probably
like
does.
it probably like in the fact that like no one really like, I wouldn't say this is a very popular show, but like it's one of
I
those ones
mean,
that if
I don't even think, I think I knew it existed because of the last live action stuff I did with Wilder.
yeah, yeah.
But besides that, I don't think I would have even known about this.
I think there's a certain moment like back in 2016, 2017 where I used to watch like a fair few of the J dramas and stuff like that. And then like that's how I kind of found this because it just got recommended to me on Netflix because I used to watch a few of them there. And that's how I found this out back in 2017. But like realistically these days, or even realistically back then, was it a popular show? Absolutely not.
I
Like
can't imagine why.
yeah. I mean, no one's really, but at the same time, you know, like you get stuff like The Room, where it's one of those ones where
Yeah.
it's so fucking mad that it's like, oh god, like everyone's like, a kind of a fan
Oh,
of it.
yeah, for sure.
I
This is definitely someone out there definitely is like, "This is my favorite thing that's
Yeah,
ever existed ever."
whether it's because they actually like it or because it's so fucking goofy, there's so many reasons why someone this might have a cult following. Um, I de- Again, it's arguably not the worst thing I've seen, but it's just there. It's got its own unique vibe to it. There's one moment in the second episode which was just like, oh my fucking god. It's the curry episode where they go into the school and they find out
Oh,
that
yeah.
like there's a whole bunch of students that are basically being like fucking dopamine via curry and turn
Pretty
into
much.
zombies. And there's one point where one thing, the principal has a backpack full of curry and rice, which he just dispenses via guns, which is okay.
Yeah.
That's one thing I found weird. But then the second bit was the fact that that same principal, again, who is very over the top, has a very wacky hairstyle. Uh,
Very
uh,
anime, like,
very
manga hairstyle.
yeah, and it was just like, well, that's fucking weird. But then he ends up eating the curry himself, and also ends up fucking doping himself up so he could have like mad muscles and stuff, and
You
turns into like
forgot about the
some
weird,
zombie
like,
wrestler. Right?
muscle onions or
Yeah,
whatever.
and then he doesn't even just put a couple onions; he puts on about fucking 15 onions into this fucking curry, and then becomes a super powered zombie and like they defeat him by basically punching him in the nuts. And it like bear in mind this whole time that he's in a wrestling outfit as well now. Like and it's like
Yeah.
everything about this is just like what am I watching right now? This is bizarre. Like freaking
See,
like
originally, I played this all off, right, because I thought this was a manga first.
okay, yeah.
So when you think like that, you're like, "Oh, they're just trying to be as truthful to the source material as possible." So I wrote it off because I was like, "Well, yeah, stuff like that probably would happen in a manga, right?" And then when you find out, no, this is wholly original, that's when it gets worse because 'cause you're just like, "Why?
Yeah.
Why?"
It's just like you tried to just come up with the most bizarre thing. And realistically, again, this is Japanese comedy at its peak with this kind of stuff because it is like no, I feel like especially with that whole principal character, I feel if anything's very Japanese comedy and like so bizarre, that is the look of it. That is the look of Japanese comedy right there. And like it's just they're doing them. Someone's got to be liking this, so if someone's decided that.
Yeah.
Like this is getting made by, I assume, like a very professional studio. I mean, it's on Netflix, so it's got to have some kind of backing and budget behind it. It's just one of those ones where, like, I just don't get a lot of it, but there's nothing wrong with that. If that
I
makes
I
sense.
didn't understand it either, but whilst I was watching it, I did think this is why Pepe recommended this or wanted to
Yeah.
watch this. I was like, this does come across as something you might like, but at the same time, it then got so weird. I was like, I don't know if any of us would like this.
No, again, this is one of those things that I love, like some forms of Japanese comedy and the wackiness of it. You know what I'm like. I love Beautiful
Yeah,
Jaguar, but I think I like that kind of thing because it is animated and it can kind of get away with it. When it turns into live action, that's when it borderlines on cringe. Like there's so many of these things I've seen before, like the Ace Attorney live action movie, where you know, like in anime, where like someone goofs up and then like some of the characters fall on their side and their legs are in the air and
yeah.
stuff like that. Like there's like various moments in that Ace Attorney movie where they did that in a live action, and it's just like, oh, that didn't work. That's cringe. That's bad. And there's other films I've seen like the Hentai Kamen live action movie. I don't know if you've ever seen or known of
I,
Hentai Kamen.
I know hentai common, but that is not something I would have thought should ever get a live. Okay,
It got a live action. I remember buying it in like HMV fucking like when I was in uni.
wow, you're brave, man. Did
And
the
like
cover have a man with some panties on his face?
yeah, I went and bought
Oh
that
god,
in the
oh god, and you
uh,
bought that in? Oh my god.
yeah, I don't know, I was like, I didn't give a shit. I was like, "Oh, no, no, this looks mad." And honestly, if I'm gonna compare this series to anything, it's gonna be that Hentai Kamen live action movie because that movie was so fucking stupid. And again, I bought it expecting like some mad budget or whatever, because obviously it's a movie. And there's literally some guy, no word of a lie, with just like face paint on, and he's like, "I'm a villain," and it's like, the fuck, that guy just has like the loosest makeup I've ever seen in a movie. Like literally, they just painted his face blue, literally like face paints, and I was like, "What? Why?"
See, this series is exactly what I was expecting when I did the live
Yeah,
action stuff with Wilder.
yeah,
I was expecting this for all of that, and now looking at it, me and Wilder got so lucky.
yeah,
We got so lucky.
yeah, yeah,
So okay, there were cringe bits in all the movies and stuff we watched, but those were like more serious. They were trying,
yeah.
and I don't want to say they weren't trying with this,
No,
but this is just like nothing compared to those. I don't even want to. I don't even want to get into it. I don't want to shit on this too much, but
no.
I got so lucky last time.
Again, like I don't think we're shitting on this. I feel like we're just pointing out the fact that it's um not exactly everyone's cup of tea is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Because it's so out of the norm for anyone in the West to watch this kind of thing and actually appreciate it for what it is. Um Again, like I don't want to shit on this either. I don't think it's something that is deserves any hate in any way.
No, it's just
um,
strange, is all.
it's light-hearted, goofy fun with like that whole Japanese comedy twist on it, and it is what it is. Again, it's not the worst thing I've seen by far. I've seen a lot of other things which I just disliked. This is not something I dislike, but I don't know if I want to watch the rest of the episodes. I am kind of tempted to now that I've gotten
I would
halfway through.
recommend you watch the host school episode because the principal also does speak English sometimes, so it's a bit sort of like Joseph Joestar.
Yeah, I do like the
There's
English. It's,
there's one of the in that episode there's a couple of like foreigners,
okay,
right?
yeah.
There's this one actor, and he purposefully trips, and it's all planned. And the principal goes over this like old looking Japanese man with a clearly a red wig on, and he's like, Anthony.
Okay.
There's quite a bit of that in when he appears early on, and it's just hilarious to hear because this guy is supposed to be an over the top character,
Yeah,
and when
yeah.
he's playing this sort of like dandy gentleman character, it's amazing
Right.
with the English. It's
Okay,
like the
yeah.
best part of that episode.
I think I will watch the rest of it because these are half-hour episodes as well. This is one thing, so they're easy to watch. They're easy to get through. Although I feel like the longest one I felt like was the first one. For some reason, that felt like that dragged on so much for me.
Did you get to the sports festival yet?
No, not yet. Like I
Okay,
think
those are long.
is it okay? Yeah.
To
So
me, they
that's
were long, and
yeah.
the last episode.
Okay, yeah. Like, in fairness, like the other ones, like the curry one and the like volleyball one, which is very strange. Like the one where
Yeah.
there's certain ones where it's just like I do not. Again, we've said this so many times already, but like I just don't get it. But I'm also not exactly looking away.
Yeah.
Like, I think the yeah, like the first one just felt like it dragged out a lot, and then these other ones haven't been too bad. They have some sort of like decent-ish storytelling to them with some mad shit that goes on in the middle, but there's nothing wrong with that. And yeah, okay, I probably will watch the rest of this series, but like, yeah. Just so I could finish it, to be honest. Just so I can, like
I
I
mean, even
started. I
if you
might as well go
don't,
on. It'll take 2 hours. It'd take 2 hours to finish these
yeah, I
episodes.
mean,
Yeah.
even if you don't, you're not missing out on much. I'll say that.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, yeah. I, the host school episode one is probably my favorite
I'll
if
have.
I had to pick one.
I'll give it. I'll get back to you on how I feel about that.
Just because that
No.
one, yeah, that one was sort of like closer to my humor, I guess.
I mean, like Fuji is in terms of comedy, like the guy where it's just like he's the most over the top out of all of them. In my
Yeah, I
opinion,
mean,
anyway.
again,
And
all
it's just
these characters, you know the tropes. You'll see them
yeah.
and you're like, okay, cool. They are literally supposed to just be the most extreme versions of those tropes. There's not much more we can say, really. I
There
don't
really
feel
isn't.
like.
I feel like we'd just be repeating ourselves at this point. But like to wrap this all up, I guess, is that I think like give this a shot, I guess. Like because I think
Yeah,
it isn't a bad series. It's something like you just gotta give it a shot. You might like it, you might not. Give it a couple episodes and see what you think. Like, but yeah, that's my opinion. It's decent.
yeah, it's all right. It's not bad. I left it
Yeah.
on in the background, to be fair.
Yeah, yeah.
It was pretty decent background noise.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, in that case, I don't know. Yeah, yeah. That basically summarizes it all. I think that those last few
It
seconds.
literally is.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
we're not gonna go out and tell you to fucking do this. But
Yeah,
yeah,
if
yeah.
you're gonna do it, that's your choice, okay? Can't blame us for that. We just we just sort of brought a bit of attention to this. We didn't tell you to go and watch the
Yeah,
thing.
we're just pointing out
But
to you. We're not pushing you towards it.
see, this is the funniest thing. This is where we're not going one way or the other. You know, normally we'd either be like, "Yeah, try it," or like on the odd occasion we're like, you could skip
Yeah,
this." This
yeah.
time around, it's just like I don't even know what to tell you. Just
This
do what you're gonna
exists.
do.
This
Yeah,
exists. This is a thing that just exists.
it's here for some reason.
Yeah.
Congrats to it.
Yeah. It's so bad. Like that is so true. Like I don't think we've ever been so middle of the road in something before, and especially for a series that is so ridiculous. It's like, yeah, like,
I think the hilarious thing is that this is a podcast. We're supposed to talk, and this is probably the first time something has just made us kind of speechless.
yeah. I mean, that's
It like defeats the whole point of what we're doing.
yeah. It's one of those things where I don't know what to say about it because it is just like, who is this for? I don't particularly know. I don't know anyone that would go out and be like, this is my kind of thing.
I
Like,
know. I know.
so I think that's why I'm kind of like, how do you recommend this to someone? And the only way I can
Well,
recommend it,
you do what we did. You don't. You let them make their own choice.
the only way I can recommend this is to just be like, if you want to watch something goofy and not take it too seriously, yeah, that's the best way I can recommend it to someone, really.
Yes, make your own mistakes. That's all I'm gonna leave it with.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's end it because we're just getting lost in our thoughts of this strange and wacky thing.
Yes.
So thanks for listening, guys. Don't forget to like, favorite, subscribe, hit that bell button so you get notified. Leave us a comment. Let us know if there's any other sort of live action things you want us to check out. If it's available to us and we can find a way to watch it, maybe we'll make an episode of it. I don't know. But yeah, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and find us on all podcast platforms. We have the links in the description. And we'll catch you next time for another Cultured Boys. Bye-bye.
Bye.